Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Seven Marriage Podcast.
Hey, Shan, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic.
Great. Bye,
Why are
everybody.
you asking that
Why am I asking
way?
that way?
No, why are you talking that way?
How am I talking?
Oh my gosh, you're doing great.
I'm not talking like a valley girl.
Hey, welcome to 24/7 Marriage Podcast. We're glad you're with us. And yeah, we're here again, of course, in the Marriage Lab, which is, I don't know where we're at right now when this comes up.
we're
It could be in
in-
Oregon,
we're in-
California.
We're in Northern
We're
California.
making our way to
The next boot camp.
to the next boot camp location in Cambria, California, as we begin to wrap up our year in terms of events, not podcasts and all that fun stuff. What, am I doing something wrong?
Oh, no. I'm just looking at our dog.
Oh.
As we have shared on social media, we now have Shadow is a part of our family, our service dog, and she's a girl. And she's going to be getting fixed in January. But until then,
You know what time it is.
I've grown up. We've had dogs our whole life.
We haven't had male. We haven't had
And I've had
any female dogs.
I've never had a female dog, and I am not NOT, not enjoying this at all. I want to make that clear.
When we were reading about dogs who, let's just say she's in heat, we're reading about dogs who are in that place. It's like they're emotional, they're needy, they're a little bit more clingy.
They feel sorry for themselves.
Emotional, like feel sorry. I'm like, wow.
That describes me.
I feel like I've been around that for a good portion of my life with 3 girls in the house, and now
raising 2 girls and going through menstruation and teaching them all that could do it 1,000 times over. I do not enjoy this with a female dog at all. It's very hard to control.
Anyway, we don't need to talk about it. Come on.
Mostly
Shannon.
because adults, we wear clothes and pants and we can control it. And with a dog, this is...
Anyways.
Can we just say that this has not been
but
fun?
She looks good in a pair of my boxers. So
oh my gosh, you're going to tell everybody what we did?
Well, we had to fashion some type of thing for her, so we put her in our boxers with a pair of boxers, a little hole for her tail.
She was
awesome.
She's wearing a pair of boxers that say Hurley on them.
Some older ones.
And then I took a maxi pad and stuck it to the inside.
Okay, more than you need to know on this podcast. More than you need to know. But this is the real life of marriage, things that have to happen. Things that take place. And so we're excited. It's been a fun, experiencing fall up in Oregon, and it's been cold, and now going to Northern California. So it's fun. It's your favorite time of year, so you enjoy that. We had a friend that came to visit, and she was like, I don't want to leave your fifth wheel because it feels like fall. Like there's the little fireplaces on, there's pumpkins, and smells like pumpkin spice. So, and everything nice.
I do love Christmas, but I feel like definitely fall is where I love.
Yeah,
it's my most favorite place to be.
You know what? I was just thinking
that I put out all my fall decor late September, and it can stay out longer all the way through Thanksgiving. Whereas Christmas, December 26th, it all goes away because I'm done with it.
Unless you're
Sandy Thompson?
No. Shannon.
What?
Unless you're our friends, Andrew and Leah, I'm calling you out. They're not going to know your last names, but I don't have 18 Christmas trees on around their house.
No, they only have 2.
I think they leave it out till into January, maybe almost February. They leave. No, they have a lot of Christmas trees. We love you. We have a lot of Christmas. They love Christmas, and so they leave it out longer. But hey, I love that.
Sandy Thompson, a old friend of the family, and I babysat for her.
She's not old.
No, she's not. But I used to babysit for her boys when we were in high school. And she would get a live Christmas tree, and she would put outdoor bulbs on the Christmas tree. So outdoor bulbs get hotter than I think those little tiny indoor.
She didn't leave it up that long, did she?
It was late January. And I was every day I would go to the house, I was like, please don't catch on fire.
Maybe she doesn't do that now.
But it scared me.
Sandy, you let us know if you do that. Shan, do you have anything funny? Any story you want to tell? I was going to, this is not, okay, you tell. Start. I don't have anything.
Oh, I don't have it. No, actually, I was going to talk about, because we always like to reminisce. And I was thinking back to some of our first dates. Not first date, because our first date was at a
You
golf.
don't have first dates when you're in junior high school. So
it was miniature golf and McDonald's. But one of the dates you took me on, and it was a big deal when you're like 18 because it was like it felt really fancy and I felt really grown up. But we went to this restaurant in LA, and I remember seeing it on an episode of 911 recently, but I think it was called Windows on Hollywood. And the restaurant spun like
it's a revolving restaurant, the top
when
of a
I say
hotel.
it spins, it wasn't like you were like holding on. It was like moved very, very slowly.
Yeah, they buckle you in your seat while you're having dinner, and you just spin, and they throw your food at you, and they hope you get it. Like
great restaurant concept. Let's do it.
Like it's a revolving restaurant. Windows on. It's not. I don't know if it's there anymore. It's probably not called that if it is there, but it would slowly turn.
The hotel is still there.
So windows all the way around, so you slowly have a whole view of the of the city and all that kind of stuff.
And we ate dinner there.
Pretty awesome.
And it was very
dates I took you on.
It was just very cool and felt very grown up, and you did a lot of fun things. We went to a lot of fun restaurants. I felt like we ate more expensive food in our dating years than we did later.
Yeah, because we don't need it now. You cook better than all that other stuff, so we don't need
that. Cookie.
I was we did that podcast a while back about just the season we're in and where I'm at, and I know I take up a lot of space in this marriage.
Yeah,
but. Maybe people want to know like how we're doing, and we haven't really updated. I think it should be, there probably needs to be another podcast around that about how you continually walk through the different, we actually did something on seasons, but those different moments.
Maybe we could get Dr. John
that kind of begin to happen. And for me, like, navigating kind of a season of depression, but also like a frustration and honestly like a little bit of I don't want to say anger, but I guess a little bit of an anger. No, would you say anger?
No,
not anger. Like
you were
irritability,
very irritable
impatience
with people.
Well, some people do dumb things. Like, come on, who writes checks in line for a supermarket instead of paying with like a debit card?
We were in a city where the population is 40,000 of senior citizens,
and then people who drive
and they have checkbooks.
They don't think when they drive.
Okay, but can I say something?
A
year or two ago, those things didn't bother you.
No.
And they're bothering you now. And that was a sign of the irritability, the depression, everything coming back.
So I'm just telling you, if you're seeing that, like, it's always in I think indicative of other things. Mm-hmm. When we start seeing like a man and even a woman like frustrated, short tempered or irritable, and just kind of acting in certain ways that they normally haven't. I think there's some things going on there you probably need to look into. And I don't know, I'm doing better. I'm still kind of in that place. I think it's been busy still that I haven't fully processed everything, and there's some things I'm navigating that I need to still process. And I think you need to give time to your spouse if they're in that, but also Chan's doing good. She's been at times a little frustrated, and it's not easy.
I love how you're going to update our audience on how I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm letting them know how you've been doing with me. You're a little frustrated at times. And a little short-tempered.
Well,
that just comes from your height. You're short, so obviously you're going to be short-tempered. And so
was that your attempt at being funny?
But
your irritability has been hard for me to translate lately because why are we pointing to the microphone?
So that you can lean in a little bit.
Well, I can't lean in because that's not comfy. So I'll pull it out. Okay, so. There's these times when you get frustrated. It just happened last night. You went outside and you shut one of the basement doors, and I heard you say, "Crap," or you went, "Oh man." So immediately I go into, Javi needs my help. Like, go out.
No, I was closing the windows because some person decided to smoke next to us and it's blowing in here. I'm like, people smoking when
bring it down. Do you understand where I was like, something happened to Javi. I needed to go and help. And when I got to you, you were just irritated and started yelling because somebody was smoking.
Not yelling.
And I was like,
speaking loudly.
Oh, nothing happened to you. So it's hard for me because that's happened several times in the last couple months where I thought that there's been an urgent matter that I come to you because I'm concerned about you. Like, do you need my help? Like, what's going on? Like, there's some imminent danger. And then, no, Javi just got irritated because leaves fell from a tree.
Well, and this is where
Who knows what it was?
This is where we learn to be patient with one another, and in moments like this, and in what we're relearning, and it's the thing, like there's times you have to relearn some things in your marriage. Like it could have been early on, there were some things you're navigating, you had these tools, and then you don't
Is it
encounter something
relearning
similar.
them
Well, I think I
or
know
just
there's some things that
getting?
we had to
Yeah.
relearn in that moment, like how we're addressing and walking through this, and relearn some of the things that we did really well back then, but we haven't had to put a lot of that into practice in the sense of in this specific type of situation.
Well, there's two things for me that are different this time around with depression. One, I had a full-time job and that was homeschooling our girls. So I had something occupying me, and we lived in a house where we had more space. And I'm in this
Just
rectangle
can't
Cracker
run.
Jack box with you. And
It's
there's
like-
no,
it's beautiful.
it is adorable, but there's nowhere to really go. So when I want space, I like go to the
No,
bedroom.
you
or
don't go. I go.
or
I
you go
go
outside.
outside, or I go to a coffee shop or somewhere.
Yeah. So there's that you sometimes need space away from each other to like decompress.
Well, Shannan, we need to be together all the time. We don't need space.
No,
We've heard people
need
say
time.
that.
We need
You
time
do.
apart.
Listen, it's okay. So I think we're learning, like you're getting back into certain rhythms and things that we have to apply now that, in terms of her asking that question more often, how can I best serve you, be available? Or her checking, am I getting frustrated? Which she hasn't done in the past, but that's kind of coming to the surface because it's mimicking some things that we encountered, years and years and years ago. So it could bring those things back.
Let me ask
And
you
all of a sudden
something.
you see one another behaving in ways that you did a long time ago. And then you have to readdress those
Let me
things.
ask you if this is helpful, because I've been doing this lately, and maybe it's not helpful to you. But when I see you, like your blood boiling or that
That's
elevation,
not blood boiling. It
no,
just
honey, when I can see your irritation growing,
sure.
is it helpful when I say it's okay, like this isn't a hill we need to die on, like it's gonna be fine? Like for instance, because you like schedule and routine, and we're very busy with our whole day is very scheduled out. We have a lot of work to do, usually Monday through Friday. And when Shadow doesn't go to the restroom in the morning, it means that our morning now is longer. And so what I've been saying to you, because you come back and you're heated, and I'm like, it's okay. Like, don't worry about it. I'm gonna get dressed. I'm gonna take her outside. Like, I'm gonna share the weight
Yes,
with you.
that's
Like,
helpful.
okay. Because I feel like I'm
But
trying
I
to
also
find
shouldn't
ways
get
for you.
frustrated when she doesn't go. But it's more like because she's traveling with us everywhere and going to every coffee shop, every event, every meet, like everywhere, and there's somewhere to be, and she doesn't, then it throws things off. And so that should not make me
No, it
irritable
shouldn't.
and upset.
No.
But it's more indicative of not that act that we're trying to get her to do. It's more indicative of not having control.
Ooh.
And that's the bigger issue. Let's be honest. And so, and I would tell you, as you're listening to this or watching, all these little things that take place, you have to step back and ask, why is that happening? What's it indicative of? Is it control? Do I feel is it revealing something? Right. Again, we listen to John Deloney quite a bit, and in his book, an early book they had about anxiety, a smaller book, he talked about how anxiety is really just a warning sign, and if you will, like a traffic light is telling you, red, yellow, green, hey, slow down, or hey, stop, because something's off, something's not okay. And so I think you need to pay attention to that, especially within your marriage, and not just go straight through. And then just say, "Oh, I have anxiety." Like, well, what's it telling you? What's going on?
Yeah.
And it's revealing something, and
I
something
think
has to shift, and that's what it's for me right now.
Yeah.
Is this place of recognize, okay, what needs to shift and change? What needs to die? What needs to be resurrected that I haven't been doing that I should be doing?
Yeah. I think a lot of people, the core issue is control. We feel that we've lost control. Maybe it's a realization we never really had control. But for you, is it revealing like an area that, do you feel like in other areas of life you don't have control over them? Or,
yeah, that's too deep for right now to process that.
Oh,
I just want to give people an update. That was all. Shannan, you wanted to jump into something, and
I did.
Yeah.
So I read this this celebrity. She's been divorced for a year now, but I read in some magazine tabloids like the reason why she got divorced.
You read tabloids?
No, just online. I pulled them up online.
You see Shan sitting in a hammock reading her People magazine and getting all caught up in the world's business.
I've never bought a People
I
magazine in
know.
my whole life.
I know.
We never kept magazines in our house. You know what? The only magazine that we ever had growing, like in our married life, were cooking magazines or Sunset
I'll
magazine.
admit I like the Sunset magazines
Sunset magazine is
because they had stuff
beautiful.
about the West and just like trips and things you could do. And yeah, anyways.
So this is Tia Mowry, and her and her sister, they're twins. They had a TV show in the 80s called Sister Sister, but Tia has a talk show. She has a huge following. She's a big celebrity, married for 14 years, and they got divorced. And I wanted to read, this is going to be kind of controversial for some people, but I wanted to talk about this because I think it's important from a biblical based, from a faith based perspective on why people get divorced. So I knew when I really started to focus on my happiness, the Sister Sister alum 44 said on the Today Show Wednesday, I feel like women, we tend to focus on everybody else's happiness, making sure that everybody else is okay, meaning our children, our friends, our family. But at the end of the day, it's all about self-love. And she went on to say,
Self-love.
a part of my decision was also for my kids, for them seeing their mother walk in truth. I feel like it's a great lesson for them because it was not an easy decision. It was one of the hardest decisions that I've ever had to make in my entire life. She continued, but if they see that mommy can do it, then that mommy, no matter what people say, no matter even if there's some sort of doubt, whatever, mommy pushed through. Mommy is living and chasing her truth. I want my children to do that. That's the best gift I can give them. Well, that's a bunch of malarkey. First of all, I don't agree. The best gift you could give them was staying married to their father, but you didn't choose to do that because you weren't in an abusive, destructive, hurtful marriage. You just said that you shared in another article that they've just grown apart. They've become two other people. And that worrying about everybody else's happiness, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like that doesn't exist. Yes, as women, we are caregivers. We're nurturers by nature. It's how God hardwired us. And we do love, I personally love to caretake for everybody. I love to feed you. I want to take care of you. You need somewhere to sleep. You're sick. I'm going to take care of you. But you can't put the blame of your marriage falling apart because you worried about everybody else's happiness. That was your own doing. Like there's some personal responsibility in there.
Well, no, there's part about you want to bring joy. You want to
Yeah,
like that. You bring your kids happiness. That you're listen. There's probably a big part there of people pleasing, of having to please everybody else. Listen, we have been successful in marriage and working through things, and we have worked to ensure that we are doing good at caring for ourselves. That is important. You do need to care for yourself and be
absolutely.
healthy and the time that you need to bring your best self. That care for yourself is important, but that will never trump the fact of like the commitment to your marriage. Like, I just need to care for myself now in this season. Well, like that is actually being uncaring to your children
Yeah.
and unloving to
So
them
find a
to
way
bring
to
them
care.
out.
So find a way to care for yourself and continue staying married. Like, is that a crazy
But the
thought?
whole thing that people get to is like, I just deserved happiness.
Well, actually, we don't deserve
So
anything according to the cross.
yeah, you don't.
We're
And
undeserving of it
here's the
all.
well, here's the thing too, is like I'm it's this place of like recognizing, and we say it often, that, you're not getting married for your happiness. It's not about happiness.
It's about
It's not, oh,
holiness.
they make me so happy. Well, great. Well, there's going to be some days where they don't. There's going to be some days where you're frustrated, you're upset, you're in a difficult moment. And with kids, with everything, jobs, and like, it's tough. You may not feel happy, but you made a covenant. You made a commitment. You stepped into something that wasn't about what I feel like in this moment. It was about the commitment and the covenant that I made to walk out this marriage with one another, regardless. And so it's not about happiness, right? Gary Thomas says your marriage is meant for holiness, to
Yeah,
reflect and image
it's
God.
God.
Like, you're probably not a believer, okay? But this whole place of like Like, I want to model to my kids that they pursue their truth. And but the thing is, then we negate the responsibility. We're actually saying, I don't agree with the covenant and I'm going to fall out of that, or the commitment I made in marriage,
Yeah.
like, because I need to make sure that I'm choosing self over anything. And some people argue with us on that, like, well, no, you have to come first, because if you don't come first, you can't serve your kids well, your husband well. Listen, I care for myself. I do things that have self-care and discipline. So over time, what begins to happen is, as I do that well, but I'm not sacrificing my family and others on the altar of doing that.
I'm sorry. You're going to need to
I'm
tell
not.
her to go back and lay down. And I'm talking about the dog.
Continue.
Yeah. So there's this place of you well, almost like this lie that she bought into, that somehow living out this new truth for her is somehow going to benefit her kids, um and that will trump her staying married to their father. Like, no, that's buying into a lie. That is buying into a lie that somehow that this is better. Obviously, we're not talking about situations where people are married and there are physical, mental, emotional abuse going on. Those are reasons why you need to leave, and that is better for your children to not be in a safe environment. This was not the case. This was just someone who wanted to find themselves and have more me time. And what I'm saying is, why didn't you ever explore doing both? Like, you
Yeah.
chose to get married, A. B, you chose to bring two children into this world. You chose to bring them here. So at some point, why didn't you make a choice to work on how I care for myself as an individual
Yeah.
while pursuing my marriage? So your only option was to abandon the marriage and leave your children in a father without a mom and a dad in the home. I don't know if people understand the ramifications and the generational impact that divorce has on children. It is detrimental.
Yeah. Yeah.
It alters their
I'm reading a little
course.
bit of what she wrote, so keep
And
going.
my best friend Carrie, she came from a divorced home. When we became best friends, I met her at 13. She Her parents had just gotten divorced. Very, very sweet people who celebrate all their holidays. They live down the street from one another. One of them's remarried. They got along very good. They never spoke ill of each other. If there was any divorce situation, I was like, her family actually did this really, really well. And yet, at 50, almost 51 years old, when I talk to Carrie about certain patterns, characteristics, certain ways she thinks, it all comes back to the root of um, it sucks that my parents got divorced, that they didn't stay together, that every weekend I had to pack a suitcase and live out of it when I went to my dad's house. And it sucks because they're both not in a place where they would say that they're happy and thriving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, because if they could go back and do it all over again, you probably would have said, if we just put in the work and the effort, look at where we could be.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, even in the best of situations, there's still fallout that Carrie struggles with to this day.
Yeah.
And she's a grandmother. She's going to be 51 years old. So it's like, when you think that it's not going to impact them, that you think that you're going to live the best picture and you're going to do everything you possibly can to make it right, it will impact them. There is no getting around that. I'm very passionate about this. Sorry, I'm a
No, keep
little
going.
worked
You don't
up.
need me. You don't need me.
I'm a little worked up. Um,
Yeah, but I want to go back to when people say, like, well, no, like loving yourself is important, and
do both.
I'm not saying that to not have a love for who you are. I think you need to be confident, secure in that, and care for yourself, care for, because it is, if you know, when Shannon was, you know, with the girls, if she didn't care for herself, if she didn't take time for herself, there's moments where she wouldn't, you know, maybe be the best for the children. Like, she can get tired, like she needs those moments where she can have a break, that I'm able to provide lift and help in that area and do everything that I can. And so ultimately, I think that's an important thing, that you need to have that. But when you
Mhm.
start saying, like, you know, making decisions that radically alter your life
Well, your
and the
family
future
dynamic.
generations. Like
Yeah.
literally your kids and their point of view, like that. What they're saying is like, if you're not happy,
You just
then you
leave.
just leave. If you don't feel like you're getting enough love and you're doing everything for everybody else, then just pursue what you love, pursue what makes you happy, and then you'll. And what happens is, like, there's, like you just said, there's this call of like giving of ourselves, of laying ourselves down on behalf of somebody else, of sacrifice.
Yeah.
And that's what you get to do. And like I've done that in marriage. There's times I lay things down that I feel I deserved, or that I
Yeah.
desire or hope for, because of the season we're in, and I have to move towards you in a different way, and I have to serve maybe even more than I normally do because of what's going on, or a difficulty, whatever it may
But
be.
why do people give themselves a free pass when it comes to marriage? Because we don't do
Yeah.
that with our children. It's like, I'm really tired of parenting these kids. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm done with them.
Yeah.
It's like we don't end that parent relationship. We
Yeah.
keep parenting.
Yeah.
And it's like, for some reason with marriage, we think that there's a back door, even though it's legal. It's a covenant. We've done it before God, friends, and family. We still know
Yeah.
that at the end of the day, if I'm not happy or I want out, there is a way out.
And there's bigger questions. And when someone comes and says, "Oh, we just weren't happy anymore," it's like, no, you're like, I tell people, you didn't fall out of love, or and happiness. You fell out of repentance. You're not willing to actually acknowledge some of the things. It's easier to say, "Oh, we're just unhappy," than to actually deal with the root causes, or the things that you own that you have to bring. It's easier to say, "Oh, they make me unhappy."
Yeah.
Really, they made you unhappy. No, they didn't make you. You chose that. And likely you chose that because you're not willing to deal with the things that you know you need to deal with. So our society has said, you just say this: we're unhappy. We fell out of love. We grew apart. We grew distant. That doesn't just happen. That doesn't just happen. There's a reason, right? Picture a boat at a dock. Okay, when it's there and it becomes untethered from the where it's anchored to, from that dock, where the ropes get loosened, it needs to be anchored there in order to not float away. Right? It needs to be tethered to that dock. Let's say that's God. That's your foundation. That's the things you built your marriage, your covenant of marriage. The minute you start loosening those ties and you aren't connecting, you aren't moving towards another, not intentional, you're not serving one another, you're not intentionally pursuing, then what happens is you're loosening those ropes, and guess what happens? You are then drifting. You are then floating apart, and it doesn't happen overnight. It slowly happens. And so what begins to happen and shift and change for you is that you can easily say, "Oh, we just fell out of it. It just happened, like we drifted apart." Well, you did, but you allowed it to happen. You untethered yourself from the anchor. You untethered yourself from the foundation, from the core things you need to do for your marriage, and from being rooted and anchored in God.
But
there you go.
But when we say it just happened, that gets us off the hook for personal responsibility and ownership.
Of course. Oh yeah.
And that feels better to us, because if our marriage doesn't work out,
we're not coming across angry, are we?
Probably.
Passionate. No, there's no anger here.
But
if you have said those words, we love you.
Yeah. No, but there's that personal responsibility. Even if you choose to get divorced, say, being able to be the big person and say, there are some things I contributed to this failure. Like, it failed and I have some personal responsibility, because zero responsibility, and then you try to enter into another relationship and possibly get married again, that you will just carry that baggage right into relationship number 2. So I believe that it gets us off the hook, because we don't like the feeling of that we did something wrong. I don't like it when you ask me, "Hey, did you do this?" Or just small things. I'm like, "No, I didn't do that. I didn't mean to do that." Like, we don't like that sense of failure. Like, I messed up, that I did something wrong. It like doesn't sit well with us. So I believe that we use that. We just fell out of love. Like, something just happened to us. We couldn't control it. And here we are.
Okay. So how do you put a bow on this for people who maybe they've said that, or that's like, you know what, I don't feel happy in my marriage? Because people do say that.
I know.
Because there's been a season of disconnection. There's been a season where they haven't felt seen. It could be just a lot of business going on and they don't feel happy.
But you didn't get here overnight. So you're not going to wake up tomorrow and it all be fixed. You're going to have to work towards recovery in your marriage. You're going to have to work towards restoration. A house burns down, we can't rebuild it in a day.
And I would ask you so what led you here?
Yeah.
Like if you got to that moment, you're saying those words, maybe reframe that. Like we have grown some disconnection. I recognize that I have not been carrying my part, and it's brought this place where like we're not joyful and happy when we're connecting with one another.
Yeah.
I want to bring that back. That's different. I don't just strive for happiness, because then you just strive to do things that give that feeling and that emotion, as opposed to the core things, the foundational things that need to shift and change, that bring joy and bring life into your marriage and create a thriving marriage.
Well, and I think, I'm sorry. Let me
finish.
Yeah, sorry.
Submit, woman. My gosh, jeez,
I snorted.
So, if you break my thought, and then I'm like, it's gone.
Sorry.
It just floats away. So I would tell you, like, what brought you to that moment. Like, you need to stop and say, what have I allowed in? What needs to shift and change on my end? Not pointing to them. It's not their responsibility. Right? They need to do A, B, and C to make me feel this way. You do your part. You love, you connect, you get, and regardless of what's done, you still are called to do the right thing in pursuit of your spouse and in loving your spouse. And so what needs to change? What needs to shift? And maybe there's a season where you've both been disconnected. You come to your spouse and say, hey, I feel like, man, just that joy we used to have of just hanging out and doing fun stuff together. Like, I want that back. We've got so caught up in just life and sometimes the busyness and all that has to take place, and the kids and running around, that we've lost this place of just enjoying one another. How can we get back to that? That's a better question to ask.
Yeah. I was thinking when I rudely interrupted you was one of our free downloads is called Engage, and you worked on that download earlier this year. I think you came out with it right after our Bootcamp 2.0, because our in the 2.0 we do this coaching session live, and that was the most beneficial part of the whole Bootcamp 2.0. So we made it into this free download. And if you sit down and be intentional with asking each other these questions and dialoguing about them, this will start to rebuild and repair those areas that are fractured.
Yeah.
And that's just a free download. It's you can go on, you can click the link below.
Yeah. Okay.
This podcast and download
Tie it up.
Yeah. So
tie it up.
I don't know how to tie this up, Javi. I got all worked up.
But we said about if you're in that place and you've said those things, those are, we just talked about what you can do, a plan of action. And I think that's an important step that you need to take to evaluate and see how you arrive to that moment and what you're saying, and really think about that. Is it truly like, I'm unhappy? Are you using that as an excuse
or a crutch,
or as a crutch, as opposed to taking the responsibility?
Yes.
Because the choice and decision you make, like we say this over and over and over and over again, will have a generational impact upon your kids.
Yes.
Even if you think, oh, we're creating great memories for them, we're doing this, and we do great as a divorced couple, you have significantly impacted the way they view, right? Marriage, engagement, connection, fighting through, the difficulties and struggles of life and of marriage. You have altered that view.
Yeah.
So just want to tell you, do that work, do the hard work.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
And
yes.
And not just pursuing, like, I make sure I just love myself and everybody else can just wait.
You can love yourself and stay married,
and love your kids well.
And you might be at a place, I'm going to wrap this up. You might be at a place where your marriage might be dead, and it could be. We need to bury that marriage as dead, but you can have a new marriage, same people. And I have seen time and time again, couples come to boot camps and workshops where they are same couple, new marriage. They have buried that old marriage and they are doing a new thing. Yeah. God is doing a new thing.
Yeah. So it's good. Again, if we appreciate you as we wrap this up for being part of the 24/7 Marriage Family and being part of this podcast.
Yeah.
Follow us on Instagram. We are a partner supported ministry. So when you give, if you partner with us, you can go to our website, click on donate, be a part of helping support what we do on a monthly basis to ensure that we are reaching more couples, to restore marriages, to help them find hope, to help them find healing, and to build new stories and new chapters.
Yes.
So thank you. And always remember that in marriage, you don't have to.
You get to.
Have an incredible week.
Bye, guys.
See you soon. Ciao. Thank you for listening to the 24/7 Marriage Podcast. Help us expand our reach by rating and leaving us a review on iTunes. Make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. For more information on the work we do and how to support the 24/7 Marriage, head on over to 247marriage.org and click on Partner with Us. Until next week, remember, in marriage you don't have to, you get to.